Anyway, somehow some of them finished in one day. When he gets there and had to rush home to relieve me to
Hello everybody, welcome to karaoke with Kevin and Jack. Thank you for having me here. I mean, you can sing if you would like to, but what we're actually here for is to celebrate the release of Guilty Pleasure. Kevin, Dickson, Jack, I'm just going to keep saying things that mean people have to applaud. They love doing that. Yeah, see? My name is Lindsey. I am a friend of the authors and here to make sure everyone plays nicely.
Yay!
So, that wasn't a cheer. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have good behaviour. So I'm going to ask the guys a few questions about the new book, and then I'm going to throw it open to you guys if you have any questions about the new book or really anything else. Is that okay?
Yeah, anything else.
Should clear that with them before I said it. And then we're going to be signing all of your copies, which is going to be lovely and make them very valuable for the future.
And we're really lucky to have Lindsey here because without her, we wouldn't be here. She was the one that read a really early blind item draft 3 years ago, more now? 4 years ago. And it was Lindsey's help that took us to Macmillan, where we ended up selling the book and getting the deal to do the chance to do a second book. I can't even speak. But yeah, Lindsey is a very successful author in her own right, and her patronage has been inestimable. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
So buy her books too.
No, do though.
Yeah, too.
I like owning things, and you have to buy that for me to do that. Anyway, so we're going to get on. Guilty Pleasure is the sequel to the LA Times best-selling novel, Blind Item, which is very exciting. For a debut novel to be a bestseller, it's huge. So well done on that, guys. Would you like to tell us just very briefly about the story for Guilty Pleasure? And we'll look at Kevin first.
With Guilty Pleasure, we knew we ended Blind Item on a downer. Like, everyone that here read it, it's harsh. And actually, the first draft was way worse. And when we came around to thinking about what we wanted to do for the second one, we knew that we had a responsibility to give everybody a good time. I feel like we didn't, like the way the world is right now, nobody needs a downer.
Well, actually, you wanted to kill him.
Yeah, we kind of, yeah, and the initial draft would have been a bit brutal. But as it grew, we really wanted to give everyone a good time, but we wanted to make you sweat for it. So the good time, I don't know if anyone here has finished it yet, but you're close?
no spoilers.
No, I'm not going to give you any spoil. Read it, is what, that will spoil it for you. Read it. It's a happy ending. We couldn't drag you. You're not gonna believe me. You're gonna be reading it thinking that I lied because we put those bitches through the mud. Like no one gets off lightly in this book, but ultimately we wanted to give you an adventure that would make you happy, and that was kind of our goal. I think from the outset.
Well, we did kill off one person, but I
Hey,
think
it's a
everyone is going to be
spoiler.
happy.
Dun, dun,
But it's not a spoiler.
That's a
But I think
mystery.
everyone is going to be happy.
I don't know about that.
I'm happy.
I talked to someone who finished it the other day, and they're like, the whole book, I thought I knew that you were going to kill someone, and they were desperately sad about it for the whole time until the end, and they were happy.
Well, someone cried, she said. At the scene, I was like, you cried, really?
Yeah, no, people have cried at the end. A couple of people have texted me and they're like, thanks, I was crying on the train.
Well, that's a good thing.
Teardrops in
That's
the
a good
pages
thing.
is good.
Yeah, we like that. Not that we want you to cry like all the time.
I know,
We
I-
don't want you to cry in general, but like maybe once or twice in the book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, because your bitch has got to get a plane. To quote someone directly. One of my favorite storylines in Guilty Pleasure, and I think from talking to people online about what they have read in Blind Item, also one of the favorite storylines and something that fascinates the general public in general is the theme of showmancers. And that's definitely covered in this book. Can you maybe, Jack, talk to us a little bit about what is a showmance? How does this come to be?
Well, showmance is like, that's so funny because you asked that, that's the number one question that we get when we even do interviews, and I'm kind of shocked that people still feel like it doesn't exist and it's not true. It's basically when an agent puts a hot actor who is in the closet and who's gay with a beard, we call them, with an actress to cover up the story. And that happens a lot, and it's a true story. And a lot of the girls take the bait because it literally skyrockets their career. Within a matter of a week, they could be unknown. The next day, they're in pages of the paper and the tabloids, and people are talking about it. They're looking at what they're wearing. They went from getting dressed by an unknown designer, now Versace is dressing them. So it changes their career. And usually, this is about a 3-year contract. And it's a well-endowed 3-year contract. You're taken care of like no tomorrow. So it's the biggest taboo, I think, in the business that really people still think it doesn't exist, but it does.
And also, it's not always just gay guys needing a
No,
cover-up.
exactly.
There's a lot of step-up relationships that we've seen. A lot of them, they'll be shorter than 3 years. A lot of them, but there's some that I could name right now, but we legally cannot do that have been going for 25 years. There's a couple that are cornerstones of Hollywood that if you know what's going on and you watch it annually, you're like, oh my God, all right. They're in their public phase, they're in their private phase, they're not doing stuff together. And you just watch it happen every year and you're like, everyone laps it up, Oprah has them on, they chat.
Just makes them look good. That's what it is. At the end of the day, if the wife is making the lead actor look very good, then they'll just keep on going with it because it's working, obviously.
Yeah.
It's mental. It's just mental, because it's something that just doesn't exist in the real world, right? It's so far removed from our experience. Unless any of you have been in a showmance, in which case,
kind of an arranged
I'd like someone to put
fake.
their hand up right now.
It's kind of a arranged fake marriage.
Yeah.
There's arranged marriage is sad still in this world. It does exist.
Yeah.
In some part of the world, they still have arranged marriages. So this is kind of the same thing, but in the taboo of Hollywood.
After this, I'm going to ask you every celebrity couple that's ever existed and get your take on that. But we'll move along. We'll do that afterwards. Another storyline in the book that I thought was really interesting was the treatment of addiction. Seamus, not a spoiler, this happened in Blind Item, has a substance abuse problem. And I found it really interesting how the system sort of comes around him and covers him and takes care of him and sort of makes it go away without really making it go away. And that was something I had never read about or really seen in such detail before. Is that something that you guys have seen in the industry?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the sad part about that, because I have experienced it with certain clients, I'm not going to name names, is some of the agents and managers are okay with that because they are the ones who provide some of the medication or they provide the drugs, and because they don't want to say no. Especially when you're making that $2 million, $3 million movie, you don't want to lose that client. That's a lot of money for you. So there's a lot of yes people in this town, which is so sad, instead of saying no. Instead of putting their foot down and saying, no, you should not be doing this or we're going to clean you up. They're like, yes, yes, yes. We're going to send you off to some fancy schmancy spa, they call it nowadays, in the middle of nowhere that you're going to get semi-help that you can still make phone calls to your friends and do what you want to do, and people still sneak things in to bring you stuff to get your addiction going. It's just not taken care of the way it's supposed to be taken care of, that we would think it would be, because they're money hungry. At the end of the day, that's what it's about.
And there's an element of like getting away with it, where people don't realize that like the celebrities, it's like playground, it's like Disneyland. So if you want to smoke meth, I remember being at a party and watching someone who was currently part of an anti-meth campaign smoking meth on the floor of the party, and the hostess of the party asked me to kick her out. And I was like, that's not who that is. She wouldn't be smoking. Oh my God, that's who that is. And you're like, oh shit, she's literally on billboards, don't do meth. And you're like, wow, she's really cooking that bowl right now, right here. And no one's got their cell phone out because it's the way that's against the culture of the party. You just watch it happen. And it's just this thing, you think you can get away with murder, but it catches up with you.
But that's part of the cover-up as well, because I have this whole campaign going on, why would I be doing that? So if there's a rumor going around, it covers up the whole situation, because you're like, well, if she didn't be doing that, he's not doing that because he's on every single billboard promoting not to do it. So it's like a whole backhanded strategy that you basically come up with to cover up their addiction, because at the end of the day, you're making money.
And literally at parties when you're standing there and you don't know a celebrity and they come up and ask if you're holding and you're like, you're supposed to be in rehab. And you're asking me if I'm holding at a party. No, I'm not. Go away. Go overdose with someone else.
Well, the sad part about it is when some of these people, you would think they'll be more like quiet about it and not so out and open about it, and then they start having 3 or 4 cocktails and it's over, and then they're like, okay, I'll do certain things for you if you. Especially if let's say you're having a party and they have someone coming in and they don't want to take pictures. All of a sudden, if you give them something, they'll do the photo and they'll do the press line. And all of a sudden, you're like, okay. You could dope them into like doing things for you, like giving them what they want.
Robert Pattinson
Is a person that's in no way connected to the storyline.
Yeah.
He's not in this book, but yeah, I had to coerce that motherfucker down a red carpet once. It was a nightmare.
With sweeties and toys and hugs.
With beer and whiskey, but it
Okay.
was still nuts.
Kevin, his
So-
lawyers are gonna call you.
so negative. It was a nightmare. Oh wait, and you saw someone thrown up in a bin that night, Steve. Remember that party? That was a good party.
Steve goes, I have no idea what you're talking about.
That was a good
Steve
one.
does not wish to be named in the suit. So moving on to the PR element in the book, obviously public relations and celebrity is a huge part of the blind item guilty pleasure world, and this book is very much about the old guard PR versus the new school sort of social media mavens. How have you guys seen that change? You've been on both sides of it. Kevin, you've been a journalist for a long time. Jack, you're on the PR side. So you've seen everything evolve and change. What are the biggest changes you've seen and how has it affected Hollywood?
Well, the biggest change I would say would be the internet. I mean, if you did not keep up with the internet as a publicist, if you started 10 years ago and you're still like pitching out of your playbook, then good luck to you, because it's all about the internet nowadays. You could get an amazing piece in a huge magazine. The client is never happy. They want that online hit because, online has 30 million people coming in, and then the magazine only has 100,000 people subscribing to it. It's a major difference. So the internet is what the biggest power of everyone at the moment. So I think the biggest change will be the internet. So if you're not up to par with it, then you're gonna have a major issue.
As a journalist and as a writer, I'm really fascinated by watching the end of fame. Like, I feel like we're at the time where fame is changing and it's kind of dying because you can't maintain an illusion when you're on Instagram, when people are taking photos of you and they're posting it. You can't control your illusion anymore. So we're dealing with people. I don't know who's going to stay famous in 5 years. Maybe fame doesn't last 5 years anymore, and I think that's interesting to me because as someone who's dealt with famous for a long time. Yes.
Everyone is a public figure now. Don't forget that.
Well, exactly. Like, everyone's like, oh, I got all these likes on YouTube. Like, that's great, but let's see you parlay that into something more than 6 months. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. It's interesting. It's available to everyone.
Well, I think it's a fake. That world of social people, I think it's going to be a phase of it that's going to come in, and eventually, hopefully, it would go away because it's just the same phase that we have with the DJs and everyone else. It's going to turn around again, but when? That's the big question.
But how will the big stars transition? That's what I'm curious about.
Well, the big stars are transitioning because they're doing the same thing that those so-called public figures are doing.
Right.
Because someone like, let's just say hypothetically, Beyonce, who was so closed about her life story, who we didn't even know that she was married to Jay-Z, and then there was photos that came out. Now she's full on Instagram, sharing her life, because she has to. So I think those people certain celebrities who have catched on to the phase that's going on will survive, but the ones who are still like, no, I can't do that, then they're not going to. So we've seen it, like, the big stars like Penelope Cruz, Nicole Kidman are transitioning into the social world because they have no choice.
Okay, interesting. I'm on board. I want to watch. I don't know the answer.
And how has it affected your job as a publicist? Have you had to acquire new skills? Have you seen people fall by the wayside who were very powerful before?
Well, you have to require new skills. You have to find new ways to promote, and it's a lot harder. It's a lot more crazier. But also, it's really hard to protect the client nowadays because everyone has a phone. Everyone is a paparazzi now. Everyone could take a picture, and everyone wants to be famous. That's the big issue. Because, and also the biggest problem is, if I take a picture of someone puking, I put it on the internet, all of a sudden I'm getting the retweets, I'm getting the likes, then they feel special about it. Even though I'm ruining your life, it's funny at the same time, but also I'm getting all these likes and I'm getting attention. And also that's why sometimes the trolls, I call them, will go on the internet and start attacking a certain client or start saying things because they want the answer back. Because what happens is, as soon as they answer, they take that answer and every single press outlet is picking it up saying, oh, look at the answer that they gave this certain fan. So all of a sudden that fan is on every single blog and people are starting to follow that person or is either hating on them because they just cause drama, but everyone wants to be famous. Secretly, everyone loves the attention, no matter what. I think that's the world we're becoming now, is that we are seeking attention for the wrong reasons.
Really
And it's also it's super quick because in this book we use Snapchat, which was massive when we did these drafts, and it's crumbling as we speak. Like it's dying, but so already I feel like something that we finished in December is a little out of date, and that is fascinating to me, and it's really scary because I don't know what happens next. When everyone invested in Snap spectacles and devoting a lot of, and then Instagram stories came along, so people are like, well, I'm just lazy, I'll just do it all in one place. It's crazy because and tomorrow there'll be something else, and that will define fame for a really short while.
Well, that's why I think the internet is so important because it's so fast changing. So if as a publicist, I think as anybody, if you're not on top of it, things are going quickly. So you need
I
to
was
be.
so proud of us putting Snap in, and now it's a waste.
No, now it's like thanks to Kylie Jenner, it's nothing.
Kendall and Kylie killed
Kylie killed us all.
Well, but that means your book is now, you've created a time capsule. Your book is a period piece at this point, which is bonkers because it's set yesterday.
Kids are gonna ask you,
It's
"Meanwhile,
vintage now.
It's a vintage,
Meanwhile,
darling.
what's a Snap spec?
Oh, Mila. So, getting back to the book and the storyline in there, this is a sequel, as we've established, but it stands alone very well. It reads very much on its own about this whole story, about what Hollywood is today. But viewing it as a sequel, I'm really interested to know, I write standalone books and series as well, so I think it's a really interesting question for myself to know how the experience of writing a sequel was different for you guys, because writing one single standalone novel is one thing, but writing a sequel to follow on the story is very different. How did you find that?
I think what the biggest help for the sequel was that we took a trip together to Palm Springs and the first day we had a major writer's block. It was very hard to get things together. So we slept the night, got up in the morning. I think we did a tequila shot or two.
A bottle of tequila, some soda, some lime, and we storyboarded the whole thing, and it just was fast. Because we knew them, we knew all these people, they're annoying and they're demanding, and so we had to sit with them and think about what they needed and where they needed to end up. And we knew from the start of it that we knew kind of where this ended. We knew this for this book, which is the end of, the cycle of Blind Item ends with Guilty Pleasure. These people can have another adventure in a couple years if we feel like it, but what happens with Seamus and Nicola reaches its conclusion-ish. Like, I don't think it's the end of their time, but I think what everyone needed to go through is in these two books. So we knew that going in, I feel like.
And also I think the hard part was there were certain people that we had to leave off because it was just becoming too much. And there was, the book is already a long book, this one, bigger than the last one. So I think that was the biggest hard part, is sadly we had to drop a few people because it was just too much in one book.
Yeah, a couple of weird characters that I fell in love with in the first one, I wanted to give them massive story arcs. They had no point. There's no purpose for this person to get their own book, pretty much. And in the first draft they were there, and then it was just like, this book is going to be so long, and we thought that Macmillan would come back and say, cut it down to the same length as Blind Item, but they came back and said, we actually want more scenes. We want it longer, we want more of these people, more of that person, but they agreed to take out the people that we took out, which is fine, like whatever, that was sad, but...
Leave them for the third book.
Yeah, they exist already in my brain, it's fine.
So can you give us an idea about a deleted scene that you took out that you really loved?
I have one, there's one, when originally it was much slower, like the start was really cold. I wanted Nicola to be really sad, and I wanted it to be winter in LA, which is a horrible time where it's rainy and it's shitty. I wanted it to be depressed and broken and dealing with all this hard stuff at work, but it was such a drag. And there was like this weird scene where Gaynor was trying to like get coke to a client at the Chateau Marmont, and Billy saw her dressed in like some ridiculous 60s outfit, like trying to climb a trellis. And that had to come out because ultimately I just needed all that shit to go to get to the good stuff quickly. Like I guess the second scene is when Billy and Kara are going to a party.
Yeah.
That was like chapter 8. that was way down. So I just killed a whole bunch of shit.
Can I say the character that I missed that we taped?
Yeah.